It's 10:15 a.m. during a cross-departmental alignment call. A senior colleague casually undermines your project report in front of the director, masking their disrespect as constructive feedback. Your heart spikes. The immediate instinct is to unmute your mic, to defend your KPIs, to draft a heavily worded email, CCing your manager. Stop. The moment you react emotionally, you forfeit your leverage. This isn't just routine office politics, it's a systemic probe of your boundaries. You're being baited into looking defensive, erratic, and weak. You do not need to over-explain. Instead, we are going to weaponize the one response they cannot counter. We cannot rewrite the toxic corporate hierarchy or patch the insecurities of your coworkers. The systemic disrespect will always exist, but we can upgrade our operational response. In this briefing, we strip Stoicism of its ancient robes and deploy it as a psychological algorithm to neutralize workplace hostility. We are going to deconstruct the mechanics of strategic silence, a method designed to starve your opponents of the emotional data they desperately crave. This isn't about finding inner peace. It is about energy preservation and regaining leverage without uttering a single syllable. Bookmark this video. Study these defensive maneuvers closely. Tomorrow morning, when the next passive-aggressive email drops or a colleague interrupts your workflow, you will not react. You will execute. Disrespect in the corporate ecosystem rarely manifests as outright shouting. It is insidious. It is coded into calendar invites, endless email threads, and subjective performance reviews. It is designed to drain your energy and test your compliance. Silence is your shield and your sword. Here are the defense mechanisms. Threat 1, the public hijacking. During a cross-departmental alignment call, you are presenting your quarterly KPIs. A peer interrupts mid-sentence to offer a better perspective, or takes credit for a data point your team sourced. The instinct is to speak louder, to reclaim the floor, to defend your territory. Marcus Aurelius noted, "To be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it." When interrupted, do not fight for the microphone. Stop talking immediately. Let them speak, but look directly at them. Do not break eye contact. Do not nod. Do not smile. Just stare, completely motionless as they ramble. When they finally stop and the virtual room falls quiet, let the silence hang for 3 agonizing seconds. Then, in a flat, unaffected voice, say, "Are you finished?" As I was saying, by fighting for airspace, you validate their interruption as a battle worthy of your time. By yielding physically but dominating psychologically, through silence and eye contact, you turn their power play into a display of their own lack of discipline. The prolonged silence makes them hyper-aware of their disruption. The room's energy shifts. You become the cliff. Their interruption becomes the wave breaking against it. They look erratic. You look utterly unbothered. Threat 2, the ambiguous CC drop. An email arrives at 4:45 p.m. on a Friday. A colleague raises a subtle manufactured concern about your project timeline. They CC your manager, their manager, and the department head. It is a digital ambush, disguised as keeping everyone in the loop. Epictetus warned, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." The amateur move is to reply all with a defensive paragraph, attaching spreadsheets and timestamps to prove your competence. Do not do this. You are feeding their trap. Instead, Weaponize digital silence. Wait exactly 24 business hours to reply. When you do not reply all. Move the senior management to BCC to silently remove them from the thread. Address the sender directly. Use one sentence. The timeline remains on track. Per our initial SLA. Let me know if you need the original documentation resent. The weaponized CC is an attempt to trigger a public emotional response. They want you to panic. By delaying your response, you signal that their emergency does not dictate your workflow priority. By removing the executives from the active thread via BCC, you terminate the public theater. You drain the oxygen from their performance. You retain your bandwidth. They are left holding an empty digital megaphone. Threat 3. The manufactured emergency. The boss, who runs on adrenaline and poor planning, drops a massive, unstructured task on your desk with an impossible deadline. They project their anxiety onto you, framing their failure of time management as your urgent crisis. Seneca wrote, "There are more things likely to frighten us than there are to crush us. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." When they approach you in a panic, breathless with new demands, do not match their energy. Do not sigh. Do not argue about your current workload. Embrace operational silence. Pause. Open your calendar or task management board. Slowly review it in silence for 5 seconds. Turn back to them. Say, "I can execute this. Which of these 3 current high priority deliverables would you like me to pause to accommodate it?" Panic is contagious. Managers use urgency to bypass your boundaries and force compliance. By responding with a slow, deliberate silence and a logistical, binary choice, you block the emotional transfer. You force them out of their frantic state and into a rational decision-making framework. You are not refusing the work. You are forcing them to bear the consequence of the prioritization. Your silence absorbs their chaos and reflects back pure, cold logic. Threat 4. The scope creep gaslighter. The client or internal stakeholder who continuously adds minor tweaks that were never in the original brief. When confronted, they employ corporate gaslighting. "I thought we agreed. This was part of the optimization phase." Epictetus stated, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." When they verbally request an out-of-scope addition during a video call, do not instantly negotiate. Apply a dead air pause, look at the camera, say absolutely nothing for 4 seconds. Let the awkwardness fill the bandwidth. Then, plainly state, "That is an interesting addition. Let me consult the original statement of work, and I will send over the adjusted cost and timeline estimate for this new feature." Gaslighters rely on the momentum of conversation to slip past boundaries. They bank on your desire to be a team player. The dead air pause forcefully stops that momentum. It creates a hard boundary in real time. By explicitly labeling it a new feature and immediately linking it to adjusted cost after a cold silence, you neutralize the manipulation. The silence conveys that their request was inappropriate, long before you even speak the words. Threat 5. The gossip node. The colleague who attempts to build rapport through shared negativity. They approach your cubicle or send a direct message to complain about a recent restructuring or to trash talk another team member. They are fishing for your validation to use as leverage later. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Do not nod. Do not say, 'I know, right?' Or 'yeah, it's crazy.' When they finish their conspiratorial whisper, look at them with mild, unreadable, polite disinterest. Offer zero verbal feedback regarding their claim. Respond only with a pivot to workflow. I haven't been tracking that. Did you get the data from the Q3 report we discussed? Gossip is an exchange of social currency. By withholding your reaction, you deny them the transaction. Silence in the face of gossip is an impenetrable firewall. It signals that you are an informational dead end. They cannot quote your silence. They cannot weaponize your lack of interest. You preserve your professional capital and avoid being dragged into the political crossfire. They will eventually seek an easier target. Threat 6. The subjective performance critic. During a one-on-one, your supervisor delivers feedback that is vague, unquantifiable, and deeply unfair. You just don't seem fully aligned with our culture lately. Or you need to show more hustle. It is a blatant power play, designed to keep you insecure and compliant. Epictetus observed, "It is not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of their significance." Your ego will scream at you to produce receipts, to argue, to justify your 60-hour weeks. Bury that instinct. When the subjective critique is delivered, employ the journalist pause. Take out a notepad. Write down what they just said, in silence. Look back up. Ask with zero inflection. Can you provide a specific data-backed metric or an isolated incident where this occurred, so I can calibrate my workflow? If they cannot, and they usually cannot, remain silent. Do not fill the void to make them comfortable. Let them sit in the inadequacy of their own management. Vague critiques are designed to make you chase their approval blindly. By silencing your defensive ego and demanding concrete metrics, you shift the burden of proof back to them. The silence after your question is a tactical void. It forces the micromanager to realize they are operating on feelings, not facts. You remain anchored to reality. They are left drowning in their own subjectivity. You protect your mental bandwidth by refusing to solve a problem that doesn't actually exist. Threat 7. The idea appropriator. You propose a strategy during a brainstorming session. It is ignored. 10 minutes later, a louder, more politically connected colleague paraphrases your exact idea, and the management praises them for their innovation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. Do not pout, and do not passively, aggressively complain on Slack later. Wait for the praise to settle. Then lean forward, look directly at the appropriator, and break the silence with surgical precision." I am glad you agree with the strategy I outlined 10 minutes ago. To build on my original point, how do you suggest we allocate the budget for the second phase? Anger makes you look petty. Silence, followed by an immediate, forward-looking tactical question, completely disarms the thief. You do not ask for a credit, you retroactively assume it as an undeniable fact, then force them to do the actual intellectual labor. You re-establish yourself as the architect of the idea, demoting them to an assistant who simply agreed with you. Threat 8. The Midnight Micromanager. It is 11:30 p.m. Your phone lights up. It is a direct message from your supervisor asking for a status update on a non-critical task that is not due until the end of the week. They are testing your availability and establishing a dynamic of 24/7 ownership over your time. Seneca warned, "No person hands out their money to passers-by, but to how many do each of us hand out our lives? We're tight-fisted with property and money, yet think too little of wasting time, the one thing about which we should all be the toughest misers. Turn off read receipts. Do not open the message. Do not reply with, I'll look at this tomorrow. Total digital blackout. Respond at exactly 8:05 a.m. the next morning with a standard status update. Do not apologize for missing their message. Do not acknowledge the time it was sent. Treat it as if it were sent at 8 a.m. Micromanagers push boundaries to see where they bend. By replying, even to say you will handle it later, you validate their right to contact you off the clock. You train them to expect access. Absolute silence enforces a rigid perimeter around your personal time. By responding normally during business hours without apologizing, you establish a silent, unbreakable rule. Your off hours do not exist in the corporate mainframe. At the end of the quarter, when the performance reviews are filed and the corporate metrics are tallied, remember this fundamental operational truth. You are not your job title. The KPIs, the deliverables, the relentless optimization loops. These are artificial constructs designed by a system optimized for its own survival, not yours. We are conditioned by hustle culture to merge our self-worth with our productivity output. This is a fatal strategic error. Your employment is a purely transactional contract. You exchange specific labor for capital. That is the entire scope of the agreement. Do not subsidize that transaction with your mental health, your identity, or your sanity. The corporation will not love you back. When you internalize this disconnect, office politics lose their gravity. You become untouchable. Your job is how you fund your existence. It is not the definition of your life. Uncouple your ego from the machine. Deploy one of these strategic silences tomorrow during your 9 a.m. alignment call. Observe the immediate shift in leverage. The corporate machine runs on predictable emotional reactions. By withholding yours, you rewrite the code. If this briefing provided tactical value, confirm your operational status by typing Stoic Professional in the comments. You are operating within the inner citadel now, a collective of professionals using cold logic to outlast the noise. Do not let the system consume your identity, preserve your bandwidth, maintain your professional distance, and prepare for the next directive. System, log out.